Hello everyone. Let us start with our history session. Lesson 6 New Questions and Ideas. We begin with part 3 today. In this session, we are going to discuss more about Jainism, what is the Sangha, and few details about the monasteries, followed by the system of ashrams. So let's begin with Jainism. So talking about Jainism, we are going to focus more on the 24th and the last Tirthankar of the Jains, who was Vardhaman Mahavir. He also spread his message around the time which is say around 2500 years ago, which is similar to Gautam Buddha. Talking about Vardhaman Mahavir, as I said, he was the 24th Tirthankar of the Jains, but he was also a prince of the Licchavi, which is in Vaishali, and he belonged to the Vajji Sangha. And at the age of 30, he left his home in search of enlightenment. For 12 years, he led a hard and lonely life, and at the end of which he attained enlightenment. He followed a very basic rule that men and women who want true knowledge should leave their homes and society. He also practiced very strict rules of ahimsa. He said, all beings, that is, all living beings, may it be a plant or animals, all have equal right to live. So, the people who want to follow Jainism must follow very strictly the rules of ahimsa, which means not hurting or killing living beings. All beings, said Mahavira, long to live. To all things, life is dear. So, he actually respected and valued the lives of each and every living being and also professed the same. Talking more about Vardhaman Mahavir, he was also a person who wanted to reach to the ordinary people as well, to the lowest level in our society. So, to understand his teachings or to make the people understand his teachings and the people could get it easily, he started preaching his religion or his thoughts in Prakrit, which was the language used by the ordinary people. There were several forms of Prakrit which were used in different parts of our country, and they were named after the regions which they were used in. So maybe the Prakrit which was spoken in Magad was known as Magadhi. Soon the followers of Mahavira increased and they came to be known as the Jainas. And they led a very simple lives begging for food. They had to be honest, they had to observe celibacy and were not allowed to steal. And yes, in some situations, in some conditions, when the men achieved the highest level of enlightenment, they even had to give up their clothes too. So here, talking about this particular sentence, we have two sects in Jainism, basically, few which belong to the Shvetambars and the others who belong to the Digambars. So when we talk about the Shvetambars, there the sadhvis or the people who achieve or attain enlightenment, they dress up in the pure white color clothing, whereas in Digambars, the men had to give up the clothes, whereas women continued wearing the pure white color clothing. To move further, there were certain rules were very difficult to follow. But then many people who wanted to follow this particular religion started leaving their homes. While there were many other people who had certain responsibilities on themselves, so they just supported these Jain monks or these Jain teachers and the nuns by giving them the help in the form of food and clothes. Jainism so slowly started spreading throughout the country as well as abroad. At the first, the teachings of Mahavira were transmitted orally. As we all know, our Vedic texts and our ancient teachings were also preached or taught to people orally. When we learnt in Rig Veda, the hymns were taught syllable by syllable. The pupils had to recite it after the gurus, and accordingly they were transmitted orally. So similarly, the teachings of Mahavira were also transmitted orally earlier, but they were written down much later, say around 500 AD in Vallabhi, which is a place in Gujarat. So these are a few important points which you need to remember when we talk about Jainism. Now, let's discuss what is Sangha. The Sangha is actually said to be an association or a organization. Okay, but in this context, when we talk about Mahavira and Buddha, as they believe that when one person wants to attain true knowledge or get enlightened, they had to leave their homes. So, in this context, we can say Sanghas or these groups or associations were of the people who started leaving their homes in search of true knowledge and getting enlightened. The rules for the Buddhist Sanghas were also written down later in a book which is Vinaya Pitaka. Now, who could join this Buddhist Sanghas? It was all men could join the Sangha. But yes, the children had to take permission from their parents. If the slaves want to join the Sangha, they had to be permitted by their owners because they have to spend a lot of time meditating. So they could not be at the service of their owners. Similar was the case with the women. If women want to join the sanghas, they had to take permission from their husbands. Even the debtors had to take permission from the creditors and the royal workers from the kings. So it was not easy to join the sangha as well. There were certain things which they had to give up and spend a lot of time meditating, preaching religion, and begging for alms or begging for food. Yes, so as I said, they spent a lot of time meditating. Men and women who started joining sanghas had to live a very, very simple life, no luxuries at their service. They meditated for entire day almost and begged for food. So now, when we talk about the Buddhist people who went begging food, they were also called as the bhikkhunis, which are the female ones, and the males were known as the bhikkhus. They taught people, they helped one another, they had different meetings to settle the small fights and quarrels within the sanghas. Now, as we said, people from different parts of society, including Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, joined sanghas. So obviously, people coming from different levels had different point of views, different thoughts, different beliefs, and so maybe there were certain times small quarrels, small fights, which also were settled down with the help of the monks and the nuns. Later, as these teachings were taken up by different people, they learned so many things from the older monks and nuns. The teachings, the learnings, whatever were happening were written down slowly and gradually. Similarly, there were people who also composed beautiful poems about the teachings, about the experiences given by Buddhism. Yes, and we can also have one more important thing here. When we talk about the Jain monks, if the monk is a male person, we call him as sadhu. And if we have a female person who is a nun actually, so she is called as sadhvi. Moving ahead, talking about the monasteries now. Such a beautiful picture we have. And I know you must have visited, you must have seen so many different pictures of the Buddhist monasteries and temples. So now let us talk more about these monasteries. all Buddhist and Jain monks, as we know, they started spreading their religion from place to place all over India as well as outside India. But then it was so that during the rainy season, they could not move from place to place, and so they had to stay in one place for a few months. And it was very difficult for them to get shelter. So then, most of these monks they started living in the natural caves. But then, those few months of the rainy season or the monsoon were not useful for them as they could not move from place to place preaching their own religion. Sometimes the supporters who were supporting Buddhism or Jainism, they started constructing or building small shelters for these monks, maybe in the gardens which were around their cities. Later, many monks and nuns they started realizing that they need certain permanent shelters as well, because we are moving from place to place, but there are many people who would like to come here, settle down here, and have the teachings from us. So, the monasteries, which were known as vihars, were built out of the rocks or wood. Now, as we know, there are many rich people who reside in our cities, in our villages. So, these were the people, the landlords, the rich kings, the wealthy people, they started giving lands for the viharas and also helped them by donating money which was required for the construction purpose. But then what about the others who were also supporting the Jains and Buddhism, but they did not have a lot of wealth where they could donate? So these local people, they started donating clothes, food, or other important things to the monks and get the knowledge from them. So this is all about monasteries. Now let us talk something which is about the system of ashrams, or we also call it as the stages of life. So in stages of life, we actually have the four different stages or the four different systems of ashrams, which are Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasis. So like around this time when Jainism and Buddhism were gaining a lot of popularity or they were becoming popular in the society, the Brahmins, they started developing the system of ashrams. Here, we do not mean a place where people live and meditate. The word ashram actually doesn't mean it. Instead, that was used for the different stages of life. So, talking about the first stage, we have the Brahmacharya. Here, the men were expected to live simple lives and study the Vedas and the life skill during the early years of their lives. So, at the age of around 5 to 8, these small children were sent to the Gurukuls, the ashrams of gurus, where they would learn different skills, they would study Vedas, and they would become a learned person. The second stage, we have the Grihastha ashram. Here, after they have completed their studies, when they are back home, they had to get married and live a life as a householders with a lot of responsibilities of their house. So moving to the next one is the third stage, which is the Vanaprastha. We can say this is the starting stage of taking a sannyas. Here, men had to live in forest and meditate for a long period of time. And the last, we have the sannyas ashram. Here, the men had to give up everything and become a sannyasi. Everything, the materialistic thing, their families, they would leave everything and move on to certain places where they won't have any contact with their own loved ones or with the society. But yes, they would keep on preaching about their religions and their experiences to different people who are along their way. Now, the system of these ashrams allowed only men to spend some part of their lives in meditation. Generally, women were not allowed to study the Vedas and hence they had to follow the ashrams chosen by their husbands. And specifically, the system of ashrams was followed by the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas. They were expected to lead simple lives. So, this is all about the system of ashrams. So, this is all from my side for today. So, today we have just seen about what is Jainism. We had a discussion about Vardhaman Mahavir, followed by what is a Sangha, who could join the Sanghas. Then we discussed a few points about monasteries. And finally, we discussed the different ashrams or the stages of life, which were divided into four, like Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. I hope you've understood the lesson. If you still have any queries, first read the lesson thoroughly and make a note of your doubts. I can clear your doubts whenever we meet for the next session. Till then, take care. Bye bye.